It's an unacceptable decision, but not an unexpected decision. Because this isn't even really the Roberts Court. It's the Trump Court.
Yes.
And what we would expect from the Trump Court is an effort to continue their scheme to suppress the vote and rig the midterm elections and beyond. Because these extremists have failed America in every possible way. They failed on the economy. They failed on health care. They're failing as it relates to this reckless and costly war of choice. The extremists have completely and totally failed America.
That's right.
So they've concluded, aided and abetted by the Trump court, that they have to cheat to win.
Yes.
The Trump court. That's what he said. Not the Roberts court, the Trump court. And Jeffries said it knowing exactly what it means. 3 Trump-appointed justices just voted to gut the Voting Rights Act hours before people in Louisiana go to early voting. This isn't a slogan, it's an accusation. The ruling dropped yesterday. The outrage you just saw? That's Congress reacting in real time. If you want this tracked every day, hit subscribe, because now watch how we got here.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus for the 119th session of Congress and proud representative of New York's 9th Congressional District, located in Brooklyn, New York. So let's tell the truth, plainly and without apology. American democracy has never been fully formed and has never been equally accessible. Every inch of progress in this country has been fought for, won through struggle, through resistance, and through the courage of people this nation tried to leave behind. We did not become a truly multiracial democracy until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 enforced the 15th Amendment, because Black Americans demanded the right to be seen, heard, and counted. That progress was paid for in blood, in sacrifice, and in unbreakable resolve. And now, 60 years later, we are watching that progress be ripped away. With its decision in Louisiana v. Callais, the Supreme Court has opened the door to a coordinated attack on Black voters across this country. This is an outright power grab. It's about silencing Black voices, dismantling majority Black districts, and rigging the map so that politicians can choose their voters instead of the other way around. We have seen this before. We know exactly what this leads to, and we will not go back. For years, we've sounded the alarm on the Voting Rights Act as the Voting Rights Act was chipped away piece by piece. Today, the consequences are here, and they are dangerous. Let me say this clearly. The legitimacy of this court is in crisis. This is not the court of Thurgood Marshall. This is not the court of that delivered Brown v. Board of Education. This is not the court that expanded freedom and moved this nation closer to its ideals. This is a court that is turning back its back on that legacy and on the people it is supposed to serve. But we're not powerless, and we're not backing down. The Congressional Black Caucus is prepared to take any measure necessary to protect Black voters in this country. We are demanding an immediate vote on the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and we will not accept delay, obstruction, or excuses. We will, and we will go further. We will fight for Supreme Court reform. We will pursue term limits for justices, and we will do what it takes to restore integrity, accountability, and trust, because no institution is above the people it serves. So let me be clear. This fight is not just about Black America. It is about the future of American democracy itself. So to anyone who thinks that we will be discouraged, to anyone who believes that we will be silenced, to anyone who hopes we will sit this moment out, you are mistaken. We will organize, we will mobilize, and we will fight. When November comes, as we show up in numbers too big to ignore and too powerful to suppress, we're not going back. We will not be moved, and we will not stop until this democracy works for all of us.
We're not going back.
Having said that, it is my honor to now bring to the podium Representative Troy Carter of Louisiana.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm Congressman Troy Carter of Louisiana, the first vice chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Thank you for being here. Obviously, this ruling today has a devastating blow to our democracy. Plain and simple. Our democracy. A democracy that is made up of all of us. We know that Louisiana may be the epicenter, hence the name, Louisiana v. Callais. But what this really means is far deeper than Louisiana. The impacts go throughout every congressional district, every school board district, every legislative district, every city council district. Here's the really crazy thing about this. In Louisiana v. Callais and this ruling, you're allowed under this ruling to have partisan gerrymandering. So you can create an advantage, but there's no protection against those who would create a disadvantage. Make that make sense. You can create partisan gerrymandering and you can stack the deck to thus get rid of what we enjoy as a democratic ability to have Democrats, Republicans, white, black, all recognized, to go with just a single party rule. But you don't have the ability to defend against discrimination. The window is very narrow per this ruling. You know the saying, come for us today, come for you tomorrow? This is bigger than Louisiana. This is bigger than the Congressional Black Caucus. This is about our democracy. That's right. And I implore everyone who's out there to recognize that if you care about justice, freedom, and fair elections, you should be as upset as we are. You should be willing to band with us to defend our Constitution, to defend our rule of law, to make sure that no one person, whoever that person may be, has the right to singularly tip the scales. That's right. That's what we see happening with this ruling. A tipping of the scales because our president wasn't shy when he said, go out and get me just 5 more votes. And that 5 votes has now trickled into what we see today. A battle that should never happen. A battle that has taken us to a place that America shouldn't go. A battle that attempts to take us back pre-1965. We need a true voting rights bill now. John Robert Voting Rights Act is the measure that will get us back onto a level playing field where all Americans are treated equally. Thank you for being here.
We now bring to the podium Congresswoman Sewell of Alabama.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Congresswoman Sewell. I represent Alabama's 7th Congressional District. We fondly call ourselves Alabama's Civil Rights District, which includes the historic cities of Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and my hometown of Selma, Alabama. Today, the far-right Supreme Court has dealt a devastating blow to our democracy and to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It will pave the way for the greatest reduction in representation for Black and minority voters since the years following Reconstruction. What the court did today makes it easier for bad state actors to silence the voices of Black voters and harder to challenge the discrimination in court. The court just gave states permission to use partisan gerrymandering as a wholesale excuse to deny black and minority voters a voice in our democracy. I'm going to repeat that. The court just gave license to states to use partisan gerrymandering as an excuse to discriminate against the voices of the minority in government. We should not mince words. This is the height of hypocrisy from the court. They just prioritize partisan politics over the sacred principle of fair representation, and the decision will have far-reaching consequences. It will not only suppress minority votes in the halls of Congress, but it will erode minority representation in state houses, city councils, and even school boards across this nation. With this decision, the extremists on the Supreme Court have completed their decades-long crusade to gut the Voting Rights Act of 1965. They willingly dismiss generations of legal precedent, of congressional intent, and the will of the American people. In doing so, they have given a green light to Donald Trump's partisan voter suppression scheme. Instead of responding to the will of the people and changing course, Trump and Republicans are trying to erode our democracy and suppress the vote to escape accountability at the ballot box. They're looking to steal the election. And we in the Congressional Black Caucus say no.
No.
We say hell no.
Hell no.
Not without a fight. I am a daughter of Selma, Alabama, and I grew up in the shadow of the civil rights movement. The foot soldiers who marched across that bridge were my neighbors, my church members, my parishioners, and my babysitters. I am here to tell you that the progress secured by those foot soldiers is being erased before our very eyes. And we say no.
No.
We say hell no.
Hell no.
Not on our watch. We cannot stand by while extremists try to silence the voices of black and minority voters. We have an urgent obligation to act. Now more than ever, we need communities across this nation to mobilize in state legislatures, in the courts, and at the ballot box. We need to vote like we've never voted before. Here in Congress, we are fighting back. This week, we launched a series of nationwide convenings led by the Southern Poverty Law Center and the House administration to hear from voters across this nation about the attacks on voting rights and the modern-day barriers to the ballot box. Their testimony will help us and inform us in our legislative duties to revise and pass the John Robert Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act with the goal of fully restoring the protections of the Voting Rights Act. The right to vote is the bloodline of our democracy. And in the spirit of John Lewis, we will continue to get into some good trouble.
That's right.
Until this democracy lives up to its creed of equality and justice for all.
Thank you.
With that, we bring our leader, the leader of the Democratic... Oh, sorry.
Right, Cleo.
Sorry. With that, we bring the leader, Cleo Fields from Louisiana, who directly is impacted by this Callais case. Cleo.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, after all those remarks, I would just simply say I rest my case. Listen, I'm from a state where in order to register to vote years ago, you had to state the preamble to the Constitution. I'm from a state that basically said you had to own property in order to register to vote. This is not new for me. I've been down this road before. 33 years ago, the same court and the same plaintiffs, for the most part, filed a lawsuit against at that time, the 4th Congressional District. And they basically said that it was a racial gerrymander. And the courts ruled that they were right. The legislature went back and eliminated the district. Here we go again. I've never served a day in Congress without a lawsuit in the Supreme Court. Louisiana's minority population is over 33% black. People have a right to participate in their democracy. If you tell me that I got to jump a certain height, I could probably do that. Tell me I got to run a certain district, distance, I could probably do that too. But if you tell me I have to be white to serve in Congress from Louisiana, I can't do nothing about that. I need some help from my government.
That's right.
And that's why we need to pass, as soon as possible, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. This is about democracy for the country, but precisely for southern states in our country. They need the help of the Voting Rights Act. So I urge the members of this body to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act as soon as possible and without fail. And at this time, I'd like to yield to our leader, Leader Jeffries.
Thank you, Cleo. I thank Chairwoman Yvette Clarke and all of the distinguished members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Today's decision by this illegitimate Supreme Court majority strikes a blow against the Voting Rights Act and is designed.
Here is what the ruling actually does. The Supreme Court voted 6-3 to strike down Louisiana's majority black congressional district, the map that black voters fought years in court to get. Gone. But it goes further than Louisiana. Justice Alito's majority opinion guts Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, the last nationwide enforcement tool left standing after the court's 2013 Shelby ruling killed pre-clearance. What Section 2 did was simple. If your state drew maps that diluted black voting power, you could be challenged in court. That protection is now effectively gone. Republican-controlled states can now redraw maps without meaningful legal consequence. Redistricting experts say over a dozen minority-held House seats are in play. Cleo Fields' early voting starts in 2 days, making even a 2026 challenge under existing precedent almost impossible. And Speaker Mike Johnson, from Louisiana, called this ruling obviously the right results. The same speaker who quotes MLK, the same speaker who controls the House floor and will never let the John Lewis Voting Rights Act come to a vote. That's the machine. And Jeffries just named it out loud. This is the end of the line for Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, at least as it existed yesterday. Shelby gutted Section 5 in 2013. Brnovich narrowed VRA lawsuits in 2021. Callais finished the job today. 3 rulings, 15 years. A methodical demolition of the legal architecture that made the 1965 Voting Rights Act actually enforceable. And every single one of those rulings came from a court reshaped by Republican presidents. 3 of the 6 votes in this majority were cast by Trump appointees. Jeffries didn't call it the Trump court as a rhetorical flourish. He called it that because it's accurate. Now the redistricting war begins in earnest. Republican-controlled legislatures in the Deep South can redraw maps. They have a 6-3 green light and no Section 2 guardrails to stop them. More than a dozen minority-held House seats, possibly more, are now targets. Cleo Fields may not survive the next cycle in Louisiana. The Congressional Black Caucus, currently at its highest membership in history, is staring at a wave of map challenges it may not have the legal tools to stop. Democrats are in the House minority. The Senate is Republican. The White House will not sign the John Lewis Act. The tools they have left are the 14th Amendment, the courts, the streets, and November 2026. This ruling doesn't just suppress black voters. It suppresses the entire coalition that's supposed to replace the current majority. That's the scheme Jeffries named. The question now is whether enough people are paying attention to stop it.